out and see the garden.
I would love to. I've been dying to do this for years. Joan, everything is so lush here. It's beautiful.
It would be very hard not to have a wonderful garden in this setting, but I must say when we came, it made a pretty good pretense of not being a wonderful garden. The house we bought was sitting essentially where this house sits, and we thought we were going to rehab it, gut it, and redo it. And when we got it gutted out, it turned out it was totally rotted. It was very old. It was about 150 years old and had originally been a barn. Anyway, we had to tear the house down and start over. And we had already sold our other house, so we had like 4 months to build a house. It was really one of the more horrendous experiences of my life. But I have to say that all the time we were here gutting it, I was letting my husband be inside and gut. I was out here playing in the garden because it was just the setting. To be out there on the boardwalk was so heavenly. I knew right off that it had to have a 5-foot path running down the middle. That was like, I knew that. It's a 36-foot wide lot, and it's 2 15-foot beds. So the original layout was always this way. Everything you see here now was taken out of the ground 2 years ago. I rebuilt the garden because there was a disastrous flood. I had raised beds in order to try to get it somewhat above the floodplain. All the raised beds were torn out and the boards were thrown across the path. And I said, well, insanity is defined as doing the same thing over again when it doesn't work.
Or in psychology, they call it a repetition compulsion.
So I called in this guy that I knew. He took off my topsoil, laid the fill, put the topsoil back. And then when I was sitting here on my terrace with Irene Hamburger from Stone Barns, Blue Hill, she said, Joan, could you use a crew of really well-trained people? I said, are you kidding? And so she brought me 15 people, came over from Stone Barns, and they laid out all the beds. And if we should walk out, let me show you how the beds are done.
Joan, it's hard to believe that this was a disaster area, as you described, because you really reclaimed it. And obviously it's very fertile. Oh,
well, and even probably more surprising if I were to tell you that in August last year I had 4.5 feet of water here, 26 logs. I still get flooded.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. You know, well, the life of a gardener, or a farmer for that matter, is, you know, to face adversity, but you've got it in droves. It builds character.
It does. My father always said that. My mother finally said that I have enough character. You might be interested in knowing that some of my problems, like floating wood chips when I have a flood, would be solved if I grew mushrooms in the wood chips, because the mycelium of the mushroom would hold all the wood chips together. I ended up being sent 3 boxes of mushroom spawn, and one of them was for a mushroom called the hug mushroom, which is cute. Okay. And yesterday I broke up the spawn, and they showed pictures of what I did not know was that mushrooms operate in the food chain, so to speak, by breaking down matter that plants normally can't break down. And so if you grow them with your plants, they help the plants. So there are mushrooms planted in that bed with those Brussels sprouts, because they showed a picture of the roots of a Brussels sprout plant that had mushrooms spawn in it and didn't have it. It was much better.
Oh, okay.
So that's
a good
new
tip.
Experiment this year.
Well, let's talk about tomatoes, because I might have some suggestions for you on some really great, productive heirloom tomatoes that are very hardy.
And disease resistant?
Yeah. For example, bison was bred by Albert Yeager for the northern Great Plains. It flourishes in adversity, literally. And I'll get you some seeds.
Okay.
All right, try it. Try it for next year.
There's my triumph.
That is,
wow,
your crowning
glory. Now, the other one has
glory.
already been cut
so
by my neighborhood restaurant, to which I'm now the supplier. They're not winter hardy. And I was so stunned. I was out here early in the spring and I looked, I said, my God, they've got artichokes.
It's truly remarkable.
Yes. This was the scene of my amazing discovery that sweet potatoes could improve your soil. I grew sweet potatoes in that bed. I had 24 pounds of sweet potatoes out of that bed, and the soil was totally transformed from absolute grit to to this thing, and I've written a whole thing about it.
Yes, I've read that.
Oh, you know
Yeah,
about that, yeah.
I know about that.
This is another one of those bands.
But I haven't tried it, and I will. Any four-leaf clovers in there?
No, this is that oxalis. One of my friends said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm pulling the oxalis out of the clover." And she told me the other day, she said, "I went home and I thought, I remember Japanese monks in these gardens whose job was just to pull the weeds." And she said, "I envied you so much having the time to do that."
I personally love weeding.
I do too.
It feels good. This is no ordinary garden. This view is extraordinary. Really?
Those are all the big estates over there. That's why you don't see any building. There's no houses, there's no lights. It's like a 19th century landscape over there. I never, ever take for granted that I am living in this place. I feel very, very, very blessed.